haven't done that intro thing in a while. I'm gonna do an intro and I'm gonna do a book ad in the middle of the thing. How's it going, Chesty?
Oh
Oh, did we
boy.
lose you? Oh, we got you. Wait, what'd you say? I missed it.
There we go. We good?
Yeah, yeah, we're good now. We're good
All
now.
right.
We're live.
Okay. Jeez, oh man. Yeah, and then I flip on the cast so I can look and see what's going on, and then of course the first thing that pops up is an advertisement for StreamYard. So I'm
Son of
like,
a
what in the
bitch.
hell's going on? So, oh yeah. Well,
Yeah, they've got us some new
never.
features, which is
Yeah,
nice, I guess.
I just want I just want to have the updates end from Microsoft, so I don't have to keep resetting, setting,
Yeah,
throwing my computer against the wall.
those forced updates are something new, man. I didn't know about the. Did you hear about this? How they got a new email thing, like a new urgency level that pings the person every 2 minutes for 20 minutes if they don't look at your email.
Uh, yeah, and I will find a way to turn that off as quickly as possible.
My girl was using. She's like, I thought it just gave. This explains why my computer keeps pinging all the time. I don't know why. I
Ugh.
guess she's gotten like 7 of them already. She's like, this is abuse. This is abuse.
Yeah, and then
Oh.
and then you get angry at your workplace, and then you find out that it's just your workplace is in cahoots with the with every computer manufacturer.
Son of a bitches. All right, I guess so. For our audience, guys, welcome. It's Red Morning. You guys know Chesty. I don't have to give him an introduction. He's a lawyer. He's really good. He's also smart. He's switched on, and he's red pilled. Unlike there'll be no. Let's just say there's not going to be any white claws here. We're not kicking out any hoes, and then we're not going to DM him afterwards saying, "Hey, that blowjob you promised. Come on, let's have at her." Is that throwing shade? Probably. Do I care? No. Do they care? No. I'm sure they're crying about it in their Lamborghini.
That's
Whatever.
right. Two
What
black.
was it? Oh, yeah, emotions.
Yeah, this will not be the two blacks one cup show today.
Oh my god, hate comes from below, guys. We're jealous of this one. I don't know. I was thinking the emotions thing. It kind of came up because of to Slav theater we got going on right now, where everybody always thinks what's Rolo's thing. He says it's guys work on instinct, reason, emotion, and girls run on instinct, emotion, reason. And I kind of want to push back on that because I've seen way too many guys acting like giant bitches to believe that.
Well,
At
I
least,
just, yeah, I mean, I've just seen too many dudes right now, wanting to be, an airborne ranger all of a sudden, and drop into, Leningrad and
wait, that's a real thing? Like that? I thought that was just Reddit thing.
no, I mean, we've, I've had a lot of people write me, who are saying, the red pill is getting contrarian on everything, and you guys need to pick a side when it comes to whether or not this is a Ukraine or a Russian thing. I'm like, I don't have to pick sides on shit.
Yeah.
For one thing, I'm too old to fight, and secondly, you know, you, I think it's a good thing to use a little bit of critical thinking before you decide to commit the lives of a whole bunch of dudes between the ages of 18 and 27 to, a certain doom. So, pardon me if I haven't decided right away whether or not, the Ukrainian side is the good guys in this fight, and Putin is the, the the total representation of everything that's wrong with the current world.
I
I
guess I just those TikToks, the chicks with the boobs, like they've really sold me on it. Like I really do think I'm on the right side of history here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've seen Russian women too. I mean, they could probably do a counterattack if the world didn't shut off their internet. So
Oh, I know the true. What Hillary Clinton finally got it right. The true victims of war are the women, the OnlyFans models. Maybe the OnlyFans are the friends we made along the way because they ain't getting
right,
paid anymore.
that's right. Can you fin dom somebody via Telegram?
The whole thing, but it's not just that. Like I know even when we were like just starting out in the married red pill, I remember probably the biggest comment on me, on you, or everybody was just to stop acting like such a woman, such a chick. I even saw this like on in my community there. There was guys talking about they're getting their alpha sorted out, they're getting their marriages sorted out, but then their wife pulled some shit and then they're scared and they take responsibility for her emotions because they're basically afraid of pissing her off. And I'm just wondering, like, how far does this rabbit hole go down? Do you think? Like, really?
Oh, men men so afraid of losing their only source of vagina that they'll capitulate to just about anything. That rabbit hole goes down as deep as history itself. I have a feeling.
Your Honor, that was a leading question. Yes, but I'll allow it.
That's right. Yeah, this is the defense portion. I'm allowed to ask leading questions.
Oh, that's good. I got to know this stuff. I'm getting better with the law. I did an episode, I think, 2 weeks ago, where I actually went through a court case. Dad and mom. Speaking of emotional men, dad and mom wanted to not get the kids vaccinated. Dad wanted it. And then the judge had to hear both sides, ruled in favor of the mom, which I'm like, okay, that's kind of expected. The part that got me was the mom was don't vax the kids. And that she came with like skeptical, basically the Joe Rogan stuff. Like, here's facts here, here's facts here, here's some research paper, here's their stuff. The dad basically called her a Nazi. And the judge was like, yeah, that's not going to fly. Part of me kind of wonders, like, on that case, if it had been the guy arguing against vaccination, would it have carried over? Like, is the law going to be truly blind? Because do you remember Triadis 3? Remember that guy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever hear about his court case stuff?
Not the last part of it. I had seen where he was kind of in the center of it and describing it, but I didn't follow that trail all the way to the end.
Well, the judge on that one apparently got, again, guys being emotional. The guy got super emotional, took the wife's side to the point, and you're going to have to explain to me how big of a deal this is, but like an official reprimand for a judge, career-wise, is that, like, where is that on the scale of big deals?
That's an 8.5 out of 10 on a scale
dear.
of big deals.
Yeah,
That's
so
a huge deal.
that's how hard he was going. Like, he was like going against the spirit of the, I don't know how, what the
Going
criteria
against
is for it.
the spirit of the law and it affecting the letter. Yeah. When you see a case of clear favoritism and the attorneys are angry enough to file a complaint with the judicial tenure commission or whatever it happens to be called in that jurisdiction,
Right.
and they are investigated by basically other attorneys and other judges who look at the record and they come to the conclusion that, yeah, this guy's really fucking biased. That's bad. That's really bad news.
Damn. But I was thinking about, and I was like, holy crap. Like, the whole point of being a judge, I thought, is you've been in the law, you're kind of jaded and cynical, and at this point, you're just like, no, the job's what matters. And then when you hear stuff like this, and it's not just, some MRA one day told you about this, it's a guy basically saying how he got through it, and he managed to get through it. If I'm not mistaken, his new girl's pretty slick. He got to see his kids, and that goofball from Purple Pill Debate that doxed him got his comeuppance, but... And it all starts because, like, dude's emotional. Even though the judge wasn't probably fucking the guy's ex-wife, he's still standing for her, or her being a fan of her and acting super emotional and treating the guy like he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen cases where the prosecutor. I sent a tweet out on this long time ago. It had to probably been almost a year and a half ago, where there was a guy from the attorney general's office who was really gung ho to get his career going. There was a little bit of a struggle hug. Accusation against some girl's college, one of her college peers, and she and another girl ended up getting wasted on all kinds of illicit substances, and they had some type of three-way action go down, and this girl was a bit of a daddy's girl, and she was more concerned about the reputation hit than she was.
I love hearing you come up with euphemisms in your head in real time.
Yeah, and I try to be careful about this stuff. I don't want to say exactly what first comes to mind.
Gotcha.
And so she goes to the police because dad kind of coaxed her to, and she makes a report along with the other girl, and then this. And she's a good-looking, young college girl, 19 years old, a little bit of a hick, and this, attorney general from the state comes swooping in, and he wants to prosecute it, and she's not sure if she wants to, so he ends up romancing her, and so one thing leads to another. She ends up dropping the case because she believed that she was that she was kind of coached into doing it by this guy who basically was screwing her, and so she ended up getting laid twice. Two guys futures, one career, the other, some college kid who got kicked out of school, completely ruined. And she just
Jesus.
kind of floats off into the ether with nothing happening to her. So, guys, when they're in positions of authority or, want to party, think twice because that girl's not going to receive any comeuppance whatsoever. Don't ever think that she will.
Dude, I love that though. That was Michael's story, the old red pilled post that you got to read twice. First time when you're in your anger phase, you can be like, "Yeah, these bitches need some accountability." And then you read it when you're older and you're a little longer in the tooth, and you're like, "Oh, okay, these bitches don't get accountability." Fine.
There never will be a comeuppance. I mean, you may as well accept the fact that these some of these girls, if they're a seven or above, and they can cry on cue, nothing will ever happen to them.
And
Ever.
the part that gets me about that, back to the emotional topic, is it's not even her fault. She's not some Machiavellian mastermind. She's just learn. It's like the dog. He learns if he punches me in the face at 6:30 in the morning, I'll get up and feed him. It's
Right.
just kind of, yeah,
Yeah, she
practicing.
she has her tool set that she's been using since she was 13 years old. And some dude just running up on her and thinking that he can use his position of authority, or oh, I've got the suit and the title, and I can put this guy away in jail for you so long as you cooperate. Okay. you know
Yeah. Oh,
and
dude, and that's like 100% emotional. Like he's thirsty, he's horny, he's thirsty, he wants to be the savior. It was the Theranos thing where a lot of the guys who were investing in the Theranos company treated it like she was the granddaughter. It's always guys with this stupid emotional vision in their head of like how things will play out and how all this work they did to make themselves, masters of the universe can finally come in handy because a 19-year-old girl looks like she might get wet over it. It's like, can you even blame them for that? It kind of sounds like a self-inflicted injury. Trusting thirsty dudes or being thirsty. It's the new
well,
cancer.
yeah, I mean, but the thing is that they believe that they're entitled to it because they've leveraged all of this effort into attaining this status. And that's the thing, is that people rely too much on status, and when they don't get their way with their status, you want to talk about people who get emotional when they're told no. Holy shit. you know to tell a 55-year-old millionaire no, when he wants something in a boardroom, or in a judge's chambers when they're negotiating a settlement. You just look them straight in the face and say no, and you can see you know the capillaries behind the left eye starting to burst.
I,
Because
I
they're
can
so.
only. This sounds way too specific. Obviously, I don't want to ask because I'm pretty sure there's some client whatever privilege on this shit. But
Yeah.
it sounds. It's like, yeah, this was my Friday. What did you guys do? Oh, I went to the gym. Had to swim at the pool. Same thing.
Yeah, I mean, after a while, if you're getting paid as much per hour to do this stuff as I am, you do see this quite a bit.
I can.
Because a lot of the litigation I do is, it's either bet the business or somebody screwed up really badly, and it's going to cost someone millions of dollars. So yeah, and when you're dealing with entrepreneurs, especially small scale entrepreneurs, the ones who start their first or second business and they've grown it to the point where they can sort of run it with an iron fist, so
Mm-hmm.
long as they don't run afoul of either the state or some person that they've done business with that's bigger and more ruthless. And so we used to have issues back in the day with super large, auto suppliers who would, you know, look at some of the smaller tier three, tier four suppliers of their parts and say, well, we're not going to pay you until we get paid by, the actual auto manufacturer. Well,
Ooh.
they have 6 to 9 months worth of cash in reserve. These companies that are worth a few $1 million don't, because they pour a lot of that money back in materials and equipment and labor. So, you sue one of these tier two suppliers, and they've got a team of 15 attorneys who basically
So they're
say,
just trying to beat you through attrition, then hope you
oh
go
yeah,
bankrupt before they get to pay.
exactly. And if you're not incredibly aggressive really early, they're just going to wait you out. You'll go out of business trying to get paid for something that you're definitely entitled to get paid for. So, you know, eh, you can't blame some people sometimes for being incredibly um, emotional when it comes to these things because they've wrapped up their whole life and their egos in these projects. And these companies are essentially what people in the community identify with them as, and how they view themselves, not as men but as I am the owner and Foundation X. And yeah, when you tell these guys no, or that you're going to have to wait, or we're going to have to split the baby, or you're going to go broke trying to litigate, this $500,000 issue, they get pissed. But at the same time, you can't blame them, but you can blame them because a lot of times this is
Well,
something
who else
that
can
they
you
just
blame?
haven't prepared for. Right.
It's not just that though. I mean, I've seen it in the military too. A lot of officers get up to a certain level and they get extremely like invested in this stuff to where the point to where they get super emotional when somebody tells them no, and it's not even like even if it's no because government policy says no or the Queen's regulations and orders say no, just the guy who's delivering it to them, and it's always like it's the most petty shit ever. It'll always be like their evaluation, they just knock them down one peg out of 10, so they miss out on the promotion this cycle, which, and then next year there's not as many promotions, so the guys basically the career's been stalled for like 5 years just from the little petty fudging of numbers and that, and it's never quite enough to call somebody on saying they're going against policy, but it's just that little bit of subjectivity, and as soon as you give guys this kind of power, it's amazing how many run with it. uh, YouTube, another great example. You would not believe, actually you would, but you guys in the audience would not believe how many guys make it to like 50,000 subscribers and get like a decent following and then start acting like, well, I can't have people on my channel. I got to make sure that they give me clout. Like, what can you do for me? As opposed to, there's a guy doing speed runs of Minecraft right now who's got 15 million followers in a year and he doesn't give a shit. But like it's like you said, it's like there's the ego because I did something and I earned it. And of course, but all of a sudden now the rules don't apply to me and I get to be a bitch. And then people stop. They never realize like you're still a small fish in a big pond. It just so happens that your eyesight only lets you see a little ways out, so you look like king shit, right?
Well, I mean, you could be talking to Cernovich right now instead of me. I mean, that's entirely up to you. But
Well, you know what? I'm not going to dunk on Cernovich right now. Fuck, he got his hands full with the Ukraine.
well, that's why I thought he'd be a good example right now because I mean, all of this stuff now is turning into petty for him because he's, you can only dumb shit your way through things so long for before it finally starts to really catch up with you. And geopolitical stuff is really not the place to shit the bed. I mean, it's
Everybody's shit in the bed though. That's the problem. It's like nobody knows what they're doing there. And all these guys, I swear to God, ever since I came on Twitter, I've found that anybody who puts their PhD as like part of their title or their bio or whatever,
Mhm.
like I guarantee that guy's going to be a dumber shit than the guy with the Dragon Ball Z Avi when it comes to anything he has expertise on,
well,
especially geopolitics.
that's because for one thing, too many basic bitch colleges are handing out doctorates in liberal arts at this point. And some dude who was a B student his entire life now has PhD at the end of his name. It's a regression to the slightly above average when it comes to handing out all of these titles. And their egos are more invested in the fact that nobody thought I could do it, and I did it. I became a PhD in
Yeah.
sociology.
Raised on toast sandwiches and mayonnaise. A
Right.
single mom helped me through it.
Yep.
I know the
Yeah.
whole fucking.
Absolutely. It's more of a you know
It's the hero's
a
journey.
it's the lower middle class hero's journey, and you're like, come on, really?
Yeah.
And if you shit on that in any way, you're basically shitting on their story and their truth and their experiences that got them from point A to point B. Yeah.
Good old narcissistic
I
fantasies,
remember,
man.
I remember filling out those FAFSA forms and praying that I got those Pell Grants so I could continue on with my mediocre education. Yeah.
That's the thing that gets me though. It's like, and I know like everybody goes, you're just weak. You gotta stop being a bitch. And it's like the guys that you're praising for not being a bitch are basically giant bitches with a small amount of power. That if you're just a nobody though, like I'm sure if I worked in some auto parts, I'd be the kid getting run over.
Yeah, I
I
yeah,
don't
I
even
mean,
know
a
where I'm
lot.
going with this one, other than
Right,
it's just like a
right.
general
But
frustration with the state of men.
sure, well, a lot of these guys, are essentially the DMV of masculinity. You know what I mean?
I like that. I like that.
I have I have my weird little fiefdom, controlled environment where if anybody says anything, they either get kicked out or, you know, the 18 people that I can rely on to really follow everything I say will come and defend me. I the DMV of expertise, or the Dan Go of Asian men. These
Oh
types of
yeah, I
folks.
forgot about him.
I
All
mean,
right, here's my question: if you could be on a podcast with anybody, would you rather have Dan Go or Naval?
uh, oh wow, wow,
Would you rather be
wow.
shot or stabbed? That's my
Yeah,
question.
yeah. I actually think I would go with Dan Go only because there would be at least three things that we would agree on. If I went on with Naval on anything, it would just be awful. Because I mean, immediately after the first thing that Naval says, I would break out into uproarious laughter because it would be some platitude nonsense. I mean, the fucking guy's Twitter account is like a fortune cookie generating site. I mean, it is so bad.
But
Everything that comes out of there is just if you could think of the most milk toast advice that a 50-year-old aunt would give you on any subject,
it'd be that one.
that's Naval's site.
That's like the Scott Adams industry now, though. That's big. First off, thank you, Gregory McGrath, $20 super chat. Thank you for such great content. Oh, dude, we're gonna have some fun on this one. I always enjoy talking with Chester. We don't do this enough because I know your time's at a premium. Plus, this is like first thing in the morning on a Saturday.
Yeah,
You should
it's
be.
not too bad. I've
Luckily, I
been
think
up
your
quite a
kids are
while.
old enough where they don't want to hang around you anymore. I think so. At
Oh
least we got
yeah,
that.
the daughter, has got driver's education training. The son, I just signed off on. He wants to start taking pilot lessons.
Ooh,
They've got a lot of cool shit that they want to get done on their own, and
well,
I'm
that's some good dadding you got going
very
on there.
very proud of them that they're starting to figure it out. And my son is basically looking at colleges and stuff right now, and his test scores were crazy good. He's 13, and they're already asking him, well, do you want to dual enroll in any college courses right now? And he's like, no, I'm 13 years old, I don't want to hang out with adults. So he's one of these kids though that he's naturally lazy, smart, like we all were growing up.
Oh yeah,
Oh man,
not challenged. I think is the term that they used.
well, and I don't even think that's true. I think
Oh,
that
it's
I
not.
think I think it's just if I can do the absolute minimum and still get A's and A minuses, that's what I'll do, and
Yeah.
that's just human nature. Work smart instead of work hard, and he's way too much working smart right now. So I mean, that's one thing I do want to get on him about is his work ethic, but. How can you tell a 13-year-old who's already, doing extremely well? Oh, you need to work harder at this. I need to see you putting in some effort. He looks at you sideways like, I don't need to put any effort in. What are you fucking talking about?
I've been there, dude. At
Yeah.
13, I think
Yeah.
isn't every 13-year-old have that one moment where they run away from home for like 4 hours? It's like that's not the time to be giving dad advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
It's,
out of here. I
it's,
can't stand you guys. Oh shit, I'm hungry.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, he did. Yeah, just comes in the side door at 7 p.m., straight for the fridge. You're like, hey, 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 hey.
Dad
This
and
is
mom
my
have
this
the
is
foresight not to bring it up. Let him save his ego there.
yeah,
Already had the extra food made. You just knew he was
yeah,
coming.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, it's
Oh,
already there, you know. But
yeah. All right. Thanks,
yeah,
3 and 3, by the way. The $5 super chat. First time catching the stream. Good stuff, Mr. Stone. Dude, I get maybe 40% of the credit for making this one a banger. I'll tell you right now. Hope you don't mind me fluffing you a bit, Chesty.
hey,
I mean, you kind of deserve it compared to a lot of the people I
yeah,
fluff. So.
yeah. Just if you like what I have to say today, follow me over to Rob Says at 2 o'clock tomorrow, because we'll get more in depth on some deeper things, I think, on that show. But
Oh, well, now I got to step this shit up. God damn it.
well, no, but we've just been doing a series on LTRs, and what being red pilled in a long term relationship is like. And you wouldn't believe, just some of the basic questions that we're getting. I was like, oh, how do I ask a girl out on a second date? Like what? It's just things like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, and I get those often. Guys are coming to me for like pickup artist advice. Like, I got to get laid. How do I do this? I'm like, I could help you, but you're like really outside the scope of what we're doing right now.
Right.
And I think that's a demographic YouTube thing, though. There's nothing you can do about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I think it is. I think also too that it's just a lot of these guys are starting to get good at picking up and closing, multiple times on dating apps, but they're finding girls that they want to follow up with, and they're not sure how to do it. So I think that's another issue that's coming up now is guys are getting proficient at getting laid, but they're awful with relationships. So
Oh yeah, well,
it's
even the guys in them are apparently bad at them, which I don't want to
oh
say. It's one of those things. I think that once it's hard, but once it's easy, it's just like easy.
well, yeah,
There's like a switch that has to flip with how you behave and your actions and how you
yeah,
how you like perceive things, I guess is the best way to put it.
yeah. I'm starting to see a lot of these power dad sites say some really stupid shit about relationships.
Well, dude, it's all the emotional stuff. It's literally like
Mm-hmm.
literally the MRA talking points from like the 90s. I just want her to understand, and it's not even the girls that want to communicate more or feel validated, it's the guys.
Yep.
And it weirds me out because it's like, look, I get it.
Yep.
If you want to feel this stuff, that's fine. Feel what you want to feel. But just realize on a tactical level that the girl is just not going to give you what you want. Because that's what your mom was supposed to give you. And I get it.
Right.
She put cigarettes out on you or something like that. Or she had a drinking problem. But like, fuck, we all get past it at some point. You're 43. Come on.
Sure, and there's the Twitter guys though that are out there. If you say one sideways thing about their favorite dad on Twitter, I mean they lose their shit. Yeah, it's like you can't
It's
say
like duck
that
hunting. I
about
love it.
you can't say that about Jordan Peterson. You don't understand anima and animus and how you need to be, both masculine and feminine in order to make a relationship. Right? Shut the fuck up. For one thing, you don't understand anything that you're talking about. You're getting, the Wikipedia version of 12 years of an education in psychology, and well, I need to know everything about there is to know about relationships in terms of Freudian methodologies, and I'm like, dude.
Oh, dude, the whole framing of it. Like, let's say all of the Freudian, Jungian shit, let's say it's all 100% correct. Just by how it's been framed, I guarantee you, anybody who starts applying that will just ruin his life. It'd be like it's like an auto mechanic and you're talking to him about physics. Like, yeah, all this shit applies to your car, but that ain't fixing the transmission.
Right. Yeah. It's like I can't throw pulleys in there when there are definitely gears. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, and it's the emotional thing. I get it. It's like you were just saying about guys want to have that sense of pride of accomplishment, but it's a relationship. Like it's as hard as you want to make it. So you get guys that are like, okay, well then I want to make it extremely hard. So have my hero's journey. So when I have a good wife, now I can brag about how I conquered Mount Everest. I made a girl who's 35 years old love me. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man.
Well, and
everybody needs it to be like fighting the Empire and blowing up the Death Star. It's like you're just fucking a girl and getting old together and trying not to kill each other.
Well, see, this is why I'm always discussing, the fact that most of these guys who speak about women in relationships are doing it in abstractions because they can't point to anything significant in their own lives as an actual example of a success. So you
That's the
say,
greatest thing you've ever tweeted, by the way. Hands
oh, well,
down.
thank you. It's also the saddest thing I've probably ever tweeted too, but
We
things
all like
kind
our
of work like that.
tragedies.
Yes, it is, and but you have all of these people say, well, you need to have a certain framework to your relationship, not this is you, this is the woman, these are how you interact with one another, and that's why all of these things fail, is because you get Peterson saying things like, well, the West was brought up on, well, let me do it in his voice. Well, the West was brought up on the monogamous relationship, and without some type of return to morality where we see a relationship between a man and a woman ending in a unit going forward, then yeah, okay,
I'm
and
impressed. You did the whole. The only thing you didn't do. Actually, no, you did it right. He has no periods in that statement at all.
right. That's why I wanted to like stop halfway through a sentence and start another sentence, because it's kind of his speaking style. But what you end up with is just a guy telling you how he thinks the West operated, and that we got from point A to point B as a civilization based on an assumption.
Yeah.
Um, and and
Usually
then
a
he looks at,
unilateral assumption too. It's always
oh,
the one factor.
it's an incredibly unilateral assumption. I mean, the thing that affected the West the most was probably the invasion of the Mongols, but I'm not going to
Ooh.
stop anybody's fantasy of what the West is supposed to look like and what it isn't,
And
because
to think, I'm always blaming it on coffee. For fuck's sakes.
well, yeah. Well, I mean, do you want to run it off the Mongol model, or do you want to run it off the Greek model, where if you weren't with a woman, you were with a man all the time? So hey, take your choice, guys.
Oh yeah. What was the saying they had? That sleeping with women was for babies, sleeping with men was for fun or
Yes,
pleasure, or was that
yep,
Rome? Was that Greek?
that's Greeks. Yeah,
Not bad for a guy who doesn't read all that philosophy shit.
yeah. I mean, you wouldn't have all these frescoes painted everywhere, of like gigantic dicks and, and things like that, if you weren't somewhat of a decadent society. And somehow, most of the good parts of that society made it over into what we call modern democracies. So, good luck
Yeah.
there.
You only need to get 10% of it right to make progress. Well, that's the emotion thing too. It's so I remember when I was deployed, we hated it. The work was ridiculous. Like we were all there gung ho ready to go to war. But we took our ships out to the around Somalia. We're basically looking for pirates and drug smugglers because everybody wanted to get that story. A couple years back, the HMCS Winnipeg got a $15 million drug bust, and it's international water, so you throw it in the ocean and you call it, and you get some pictures taken. Great, have cocktail party stories forever. But and here was the thing: the Americans run the Seventh Fleet. They were allowing the Canadians to run it, but the reason they let us run it was because it was poppy growing season, so no heroin's going out. It was cyclone season, so no dhows are going out on the waters. And it's like, you guys can take charge at this time when literally nothing is going on. And so we went out there. Everybody was so gung ho. We're going to find drugs. We're going to stop terrorists. This is great. I watched the whole season of 24 before we got out here. Fucking right. And then none of it ever came to at all. But everybody was dying for it. But I think it's that same mentality. The same guys that like worship Sparta because the Spartan warriors were great. The longer you leave these things aside, like the further away the deployment gets, the more I remember it being the most fun time of my life. But I remember I had a journal and I wrote at the time, like, I hate this. This is why I hate it. This is why I hate it. And every now and then I pick it up again and I remember what I thought I experienced and what I actually experienced were not even close. And I think it's the same thing with these assholes where they go, Sparta is great. But then you look into Sparta and Greece and all that shit and you're like, oh, okay, so they're just sleeping with dudes, having fun and drinking wine all day. The Spartans, when they died, they gave their wives all of their divorce settlement. And so the wives ended up taking that money and running the place into the ground until they got taken over by the boy lovers, And this is the kind of stuff that you wanna emulate because it feels good because they got cool helmets.
Yeah, I mean, some of these guys, I really think they just want to be segregated into barracks from age 10 forward, and forced to get six packs and fight unlimited wars with people that they don't know or understand, just so they can follow a charismatic leader. I mean, good for you if you have no frame and you're always placing it in another dude's frame. But that's the thing. I mean,
And not just
some
any dude, it's going to be like a raging narcissist because only that kind of person even wants to be in that kind of position where you're basically the king of shit mountain and
well,
have a
yeah,
bunch of bobbleheads following you around, right?
yeah. I mean, you always have these posthumous um, biographies made about generals because you can never speak poorly about them when they're alive because they either their followers will terrorize you, or they'll, at least now, they'll smear you in the media. But you know nobody liked MacArthur. I mean, he was a complete asshole. And
Mm-hmm.
he thought that like tactical nuclear weapons in Southeast Asia would solve a lot of the problems of the creep of communism.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
I mean, some people,
every problem is a nail. I remember that.
right? I mean, and at a certain point, you get a president who finally looks at him and says, "Dude, you're fucking insane," and puts him out to pasture, and everybody's mad at the president because they just don't look at the look at the history of the guy.
Mm-hmm.
um, and this is the way the internet works too, where you just get some charismatic people who say crazy shit and they get followers because they're just looking for somebody to believe in, who's willing to say, quote unquote, what they don't want you to hear. And what are
I
you
love the
talking about?
theys. It's always they.
That's right.
It's
It's
like fill
they.
in the
It's
boots. What boogeyman do you want there? Is it feminists? Is it the Hebrew faith? Is it conservatives? Like who's the villain this week? I guess Ukraine and Russia get that now. Now it's
Yeah, yeah.
Russians.
I think right now Putin is the villain du jour.
Such
Um,
80s nostalgia, man. It's like vaporwave politics.
yeah, it's pretty interesting. When people are having to look up appeasement as a word again, or
Oh
what.
boy.
Yeah, because I mean, we're at that. If anything, we're at that like 1938 feel good stage where the Germans and the Russians, had a non compete clause that they were kind of just looking at each other with and saying, look, if we're going to split up this half of the world, we're going to agree that we're going to avoid each other while doing it. And even then, they couldn't do that for too long.
No.
I mean, where do you
Meanwhile,
guys?
back then, the Axis weren't supplying the Allies with all the natural gas they needed to heat their homes. So,
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, okay, so Germany, what do you do here? Who do you eventually side with, since you
oh yeah,
put
what
all
did they
your
end up
eggs
doing
in
with
the?
that too? Didn't they? That's all politics shit. Whatever.
Yeah,
I was just
yeah, I
thinking,
don't
yeah,
want to.
bringing it back to guys, and like, but that's the point. There's all these narratives, all these stories, and they feel good, and they sound good, and you feel noble, and then you go back to your bullshit life, and you just wanna. What's that guy's name? Walter Mitty? Walter Mittley?
Midi,
Walter
Midi,
Mitty. Yeah, I
Walter.
was thinking Baron Munchausen, but I'm like, no, that would actually be a cool thing.
Yeah,
The Walter Mitty thing, where they have to think of themselves as the super duper alpha male patriarch Spartan in their head, think of their own Luke Star Wars hero's journey, and then they live in this fantasy land. Unfortunately, chicks have their own fantasy land, and when they merge, that's great, but most often they don't. And the way we're set up now, if a girl and a boy are fighting, everybody's going to be like, yeah, the girl wins. Give her your stuff, give her the kids, get out. Yeah, for the average guy, this shit just does not fly. And I'm surprised how many guys are just like, sounds good though, I'll sign me up.
well, it's because a lot of these guys feel as though they don't have any meaning, in their lives, and they're looking for something to do that has some type of gravitas.
Yeah.
Um,
The easiest and cheapest gravitas either. Let's not say like they're not saving the West. They're changing their profile picture to a Ukraine flag. Like come
Oh
on.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. And then going on Twitter and shitting up every thread and saying, all the red pill guys are contrarian because they won't choose a side. I'm like, oh, okay, Mr. Nurse. with your stupid avatar and your Ukrainian flag. I'm sick of you.
Yeah. Oh, dude, the content creators aren't helping it either because, like, I get it. I'm on this side of things, so I see it. I'm not as good at it because I make an effort not to be. But you realize, like, engagement is engagement. You know, the whole dopamine hit there is another emotional thing. Oh, fuck, there's 8 likes on this. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I just turned all the notifications off. I have to scroll through my old posts. If I don't ever respond to your guys' shit, it's probably because I just didn't look back through the day and see how it did.
Well, yeah. Plus too. I'm just waiting for 5 or 6 guys that follow me to shit it up with pandas and T Rexes and
God
all
damn
other
it, Rob and
kinds
Mish.
of stuff.
It's good though, but I think that's like the greatest red pilled lesson ever is just irreverence. I don't think that
Yeah.
doesn't count as an emotion, does it?
Well, no, it doesn't. But I think part of it is just saying, look, I reject your stupid reality. I'm going to get in here with somebody else and recreate my own with someone who understands what the hell's going on. It happened all
Yeah.
the time in Reddit too. We Ryan, me and Curve and a couple of other guys, we would go into like this woman's post and and just start a conversation of internal jokes amongst ourselves that made no sense in context to what this chick was writing,
Oh
and
yeah.
have 55, 60 responses to itself, and then the mods getting mad that you're shitting up this woman's post, what's wrong with you, what are you doing, and that stuff used to be fun because they're like, look, this is a public forum. I mean, if you want to gatekeep, fine, but if you if you don't want to, then expect this to happen. And it's the same thing
Yeah.
with Twitter too. Sometimes.
Besides, were our conversation like they were just about as engaging as their other shit, and they were just about as asinine. The only difference
Right.
was they were self-aware.
Yes, which is kind of funny because asinine self-aware people, I think, are a subset of Reddit. I mean, that is kind of what Reddit is. It's like it's like I don't like Twitter because I don't have a long enough format to write out all of the dumb shit that I want to write all at
Yeah.
once. Yeah,
Oh,
these are the only
it's the
people.
ultimate in like abstract. Like I
Oh
remember
yeah,
Purple Pill Debate back when they still let me even post in there. It was just literally people inventing scenarios in their head to make whatever they already believed true. And then if you brought up an experience, they would either what was like the standard things. It's like, well, that's a sample size of one, it doesn't count. So then, and this is when back when I used to think like it was worth it. Then you bring up a bunch of examples of other people's experiences, but then it's like a statistical problem because you didn't gather. It basically got to the point that if you're not wearing a lab coat, writing it down in the Wall Street
yeah,
Journal, I don't care.
yeah. Show sources. Okay,
Jesus.
well, I have to show sources to counteract a hypothetical that you created.
Yeah. Well,
Screw you,
and you
man.
realize too, because it's all these emotional people are being emotional. They want what they believe to be true, so they invent S- Star Wars in their head, read it out to you, so it is true. They don't have any experience to prove it one way or the other, and you just realize at this point, like I'm talking to a fucking le retard, like a
Yeah,
late
pretty,
Frenchman.
pretty much. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is that all all opinions are equivalent on Reddit
Yeah.
until a mod says otherwise, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
kind of the problem.
Exactly, and that kind of ties back to what I was saying with the content creator side because I'm seeing a lot of guys now that kind of started like when you or I did like 2016 or whatever it was. And I know this is Twitter doesn't count, but it's like it's an interesting case study. A lot of these people had real opinions and stuff was based on an experience on a niche that they tend to know well. I'm not saying just red pill, but it's as guilty of it as anybody. But then you start getting those engagements from those, terminally online people that have those straw man arguments, same as the purple pill debate people. And then you realize, well, this engagement has helped me get growth, and people are following me just to shit on me. Well, numbers is numbers. Or what did Donovan Sharp said that once when everybody was just shitting on him on his live streams? He's like, "Hey, any engagement's good engagement." I'm like, "All right. I mean, you can have that. You can have that, or you can have that we're saving lives and helping men." I just don't like the people who try to have it both ways. Because it's
Well,
like
I
you can
I
lie to
mean,
yourself, but don't lie to me, asshole.
I think about it this way. Do I really need my geopolitical advice from the guy I would go to, and whether or not I want Oxfords or Brogues? You know, I you know, you're my fashion guy. You're my fitness guy. You're my, whatever niche that I originally followed you for. I'm not here to ask your opinion or receive your opinion on whether or not you think, this is all wag the dog, in real life, or if this is a Putin issue, or if the Ukrainians are making shit up.
Yeah.
Dude, just tell me what to pair with a decent sweater this spring. Because that's why I follow you. I don't follow you for any of that other shit.
And in full fairness, I know I went full trucker this year too. So like I'm not exempting myself from your critique on this at all. Anything far from it. I will say this though. I'm smarter than Pat Stedman that if you do go to these things, you don't fucking live stream it because you know they're going to start bringing in the horses. Although I did have to walk my girl back from that when I did the donation, back when they were doing the scares about that. But I mean, I think and I'm guessing I'm going to defend those guys you're talking about with the style advice. It's like you don't have to be one dimensional. You can talk about more than one thing. I think the big part of it though is stop letting your emotions get the best of you, where you think, well, people like me, and then you start buying into the hype, and it's just you realize you're just the same dumb shit opinion as everybody else, just because you're the style guru or the pickup guru.
Right, I get your point. You don't need to be one dimensional, but
no, you are right. It's the guys that just like oh, I'm expert here, I'm expert everywhere. Here's how I'd fix the Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, this will be a Dunning-Kruger war. Very, 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 sure of that if it expands in any way, because it's always the person who has a little bit of authority or a little bit of knowledge in one area who believes that they can just transfer that to other areas, and other people will believe them for the same stuff. And
yeah, same reason you were saying before too. They worked really hard to get where they are in Fashion Week or whatever the fuck their niche is. So why wouldn't they be all emotional and ego driven about I'm good at everything. If I did this, I can do it all. Which is exactly the same shit we shit on feminists for, with that I can have everything. I just find that part somewhat it's amusing. Life has a sense of irony to it.
Well, it does, because it's but and we've discussed this before, is that a lot of guys in this space are basically feminists, but with penises, because of the way that they present their material and the way that they argue. Mm-hmm. It goes from ad hominem to straw man, to created hypotheticals, and then after that you appeal to the masses, to authority, to yourself, and
it's the god of the newsletter that you got to sign up for.
Yes, exactly. And this is why some publications have gone straight into the toilet over the past couple of years. Like Quillette's an excellent example. It's headed by an idiot, and she likes to discuss things that she has no expertise in, with the authority of well, I'm the editor of the intellectual dark web paper from Australia, so bow down to Claire Layman's opinion on everything, and she's trash on 90% of this stuff because she doesn't have any experience with it, and she just doesn't stay in her lane. And she's not the only one, though. I mean, there are a lot of people who are like that, where they feel as though they've garnered enough trust in one area or enough authority, intellectually or otherwise, to make statements about things that they just don't have any experience with.
I take it you've watched the Jordan Peterson Bitcoin episode then.
Yeah.
I can't believe that's real. There's no way that had to have been satire. I didn't check for a Babylon Bee, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, what do you know about Bitcoin, Mr. Peterson? I don't know that much about Bitcoin, but I sure do know a lot about human nature, and I think that people are driven to get into Ponzi schemes and such, and so yeah.
But again, it all comes back to like, how many of you guys do you think, out of all the people that are going emotional and like sniffing their own farts, shit like that, I bet you anything, these same mental models reflect into their home life? Like I can't put a questionnaire out there to find out, but the ratio of people who fuck on the regular and the ratio of people with dog shit Ukraine takes. I bet you it's a good ratio, or
I
bad,
bet,
depending on how you look at it.
I bet it definitely correlates. Correlation is not causation, but in this case, I think that you being an emotional bitch may be why you're not fucking. So
Yeah.
that's that would be the way to look at it.
And as much as guys love to shit on, like, oh, you guys are just talking about getting laid, I'm like, look, all I know is that the guys that get laid tend to act right.
Yeah.
So maybe, just maybe, stowing your emotions, realizing you ain't shit, sorting out your basic needs before you start worrying about, literally clean your room.
Yeah.
Clean your room because you're going to have a chick in there later.
Clean your pipes.
Yeah, clean your pipes. Don't worry about semen retention. Worry about semen, I don't know, whatever the opposite of retention is.
Expulsion.
Yeah, expulsion, exactly. I guess here, I got to back up here. Sancho, thank you for the $5 super chat from Vegas with love, pouring my coffee and my French press while listening to a Red Morning. Dude, once you guys do a French press, I don't think you'll ever go back. Like, it seems counterintuitive that, like, the simplest way of preparing coffee is, I'd say, one of the best, but it just is. I don't know. Is that you or you? No, you're fancy with the fucking espresso machine, weren't you?
Who,
Chesty?
me?
Yeah.
No, not at all. No, I would rather French press or do a 1 cup at a time on the stove with the old um, Italian boiling method.
Oh, the little mini.
Yep, it's literally 1 cup at a time. Those makers, there's probably one in every European home. It kind of comes with every home, like Fleetwood Mac's Rumors comes with every American house. or,
So how does
or
it
you're
work
just
then? Is it
looking
just
around in the basement, and all of a sudden, oh my God, it's Fleetwood Mac. How the hell is this here?
For me, it was always that one Journey album with that crazy, like, Pink Floyd-ish science fiction cover to it.
Journey, the one with it looks like a
Flying
UFO
car or some shit. Yeah, that's the one.
UFO. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That album. And Michael Jackson's Thriller
Oh,
too.
I had the
Every
Thriller
household.
tape. And
But
then Winter
yeah,
Skateboarding here. $10 super chat. Ain't nobody reading no newsletter. PPC or die. You're not wrong. For my newsletter, I check the open rates, and apparently I'm one of the better ones, and I only get like 30%.
oof. TLDR.
Yeah, I guess, like, but I mean, have you ever
newsletter.
read? Have you ever, like, did you have that phase where you signed up to all the newsletters and read what people are putting out?
I did, and then I got a bunch of Family Alpha newsletters, and I'm like, nah, I can't read this stuff anymore.
Oh, we're dunking on Zach, are we? We're at this phase in the podcast.
No, just that. That's my one. I mean, there were a lot of them, and a lot of things that were said were like, basically like, I don't know, wash your balls for new dads, and I'm like, look, man, I'm like well past this point. I don't need, you know, advice on diaper change schedules and shit like that.
Well, that's how most guys' advice works, though. Like, nobody does what used to happen. I assume it used to happen, where you do something, you get good at something, you retire out of something, and then you teach the thing. Now people are like right in situ. It's like, hey guys, I've been a dad for 6 months now. Sign up for my newsletter. Let me show you how it's done. It's like, holy fuck, man. And then literally the next week they tried something new. Guys, just figured out this great new thing. 7 tips or tricks to change a diaper without getting poop on you. And you're like, and you're realizing these guys are literally doing what Jack used to make fun of me for. The be like me, it worked for me.
Right.
And I gotta thank the guy. At the time I was like, fuck you, man. But now I'm like, I get it now. Like, you've said a lot of shit that some of it was good, some of it was bad, but that one there, I'm like, fair point, sir.
Yeah.
It was right after that Ellis Die Hard reference, I think, is what set him off.
well, that's the thing is, you've seen it before, where a lot of people now, especially, are starting to delve into fiction for examples of how to live, a meat-based life, which is
I cannot
kind of
wait for more Don Draper references.
right. Don Draper references, or Lord of the Rings, or Brave New World in 1984, Anna Karenina. I just
Never Lolita, though. Always wondering about that.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that you just get so bogged down with all of these examples from fiction, and you're like, okay, well, I understand that every fictional thing is written with a certain grain of truth, where either their personal experience of the author or something from the times kind of wheedled its way into whatever
Yeah.
was being written. Yeah, I get
Or
that.
sometimes it just resonates with something that like the reality TV, it resonates with you because of the themes, not necessarily like it's true reality TV. Like I get
Right.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I will never watch The Bachelor or Love Island or any of that bullshit, but I mean, that's just me.
Dude,
But at the same time, there's 50 million people who do. So obviously, something about it resonates with them. Either they love the drama and they want to see other people's relationships go down in flames, or they see something of themselves in these people who are forced to be together within certain confines.
yeah. But I do
So,
agree though, guys who start making their relationship and sex advice based on this stuff is like guys who have shitty diets talking about their $500 a month supplements that they're taking.
mhm.
Like it'd be
Yeah, I
great,
mean,
like just a little bit of it, a sprinkle of alpha is all you need.
right, right. Yeah, my urine is super dark, guys. You need to take this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Fuck, man, Zach, why'd you bring up Zach? 'Cause now I got a bone to pick. Talk to
oh,
him about this too, and it's nothing like serious or beefy. I was just remembering that moment where he had that one post on Reddit. I can't, it was some dog shit post. It's something stupid or pablum. It sounded like a newsletter and not like actually talking with Zach, right?
right.
And I watched like 100 dudes all rooting for him. They all wanted him to win. They're all telling him stuff that's good, stuff that's bad, and he was acting like they're all trying to get him. Like they're all against me. They pulled the full Anthony Johnson mode. And I remember Fire Temper. Do you remember him over 60,
Hmm.
stupid
Oh
loader?
yeah.
And I remember at one point I've never seen this through a tweet or through a Reddit comment before, where you can see a guy just give up on somebody. It was fucking amazing. It's like he's really good with words. I could feel on the other end him just like, good luck, man.
I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out. And that guy was probably next to Frenchie. I have to say, he's probably one of the most patient guys I'd ever seen about helping other dudes.
Yeah, I mean, because he was older and burned a couple of different times, and
Yeah.
he was genuinely looking to try to help guys and say, look, man, I've got over 60 years of life experience here, and I've had a number of failed relationships under my belt. I can see that you're going down the path of stupid right now, and and it'd be really smart for you to maybe take a little of what I have to say to heart. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and
And he did the
him.
same work everybody else did. It's not like he's the old man who walked in there and started telling you stories.
No, it's true.
Went through the
Yeah,
same trench as everybody else. I think he got himself like a girl 20 some years younger than him too, and he was having fun with her and great.
right. Yeah, I mean, the most of the stuff that he talked about that I think was important were the facts
Treasury.
about, well, yeah, that and just the fact that you spend the most of the time with your kids or not with your kids as adults, not as children. So I mean, you better yeah, turn them into people that you want to hang out with when this is all said and done, or it's going to be miserable for you.
Oh
And
fuck, I would love to have that become a thing. I would love if people started stealing that idea and using that on Twitter. That'd be nice. It's not going to happen because it's too much long-term thinking, not enough sales pitch, you know?
well, yeah, and that's a big problem is people are using Twitter as a funnel more than anything else, and I don't blame anybody for doing that, but that's just the way that it works. You excite or exacerbate somebody with something that you say in a few lines, and then say, "Oh, you want to learn more about what I have to say? Subscribe to this, or
Yeah. And
here's."
then argue because everybody's treating everything so artificially and nobody's authentic. It's like you can't have it both ways. That's like you said, it was the feminist thing. Atlas said that once too, where we were talking, where some MRA type was bitching about girls say they want this, but then they're doing this. You can't have it both ways and then complain when it doesn't go your way. She's like, sure we can, because you guys will accommodate it.
Right.
And I was like, fuck, I hate her. She's a bitch, but she's right.
Well, she is. I mean, this whole everybody needs to hold women accountable at a certain point will never happen, because the fact is that there is a group of men always sitting behind you waiting to swoop in the event that you toss up your hands and say, hey, I'm out. you
Yeah.
know and there will always be those you know simps and dorks and uncalibrated people who are just so desperate for even the slightest chance. It's like Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying I got a chance,
Yeah.
and
And like everybody loves to follow that up with, yeah, but then she's gonna be miserable because she's not with an alpha male like you. It's like, yeah, right. Like she can't stand you, but this next guy's gonna be perfect, whatever. But the best case scenario I've ever seen come out of this is the guy has his life ruined, wife divorces him, takes the kids, all that shit, marries some dude that nobody likes and she doesn't love, so she ends up sleeping with you on the side again. So essentially, you're paying child support, aka prostitution fees now. That's a best case scenario. All because of like the holding women accountable shit. And everybody who's big and huge and popular loves saying it because it makes you feel good because that chick you had on your podcast looks just like my bitch ex-wife. But again, there's this quiet voice in the background of guys like Fire Tempered or Over 60, and it's like, yeah, you can try this if you want to. I'm telling you, in for a world of hurt, though. They're like, shut up, old man. We got this. This guy's been married like 6 months. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, he knows exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah. But of course he says it with confidence, right? Like even
Well, yeah, I mean, it just the most engagement, I think, we're talking about Zach a little bit. The most engagement Zach ever got on Twitter or anything that he ever wrote was when he said, "I wouldn't let my wife go out of the side of the house wearing that." That was literally the most engagement he ever got.
she can't go out. Oh, of course she can't let him go out. That's where his shed is.
No, but just the fact that he got shit from all sides, from
Yeah.
from men because well, why would she even buy that in the first place? Aren't you master of your household? What is she even doing out of her basement? I mean, should she be polishing some silver in some box somewhere? Because that's part of her duties or whatever.
Yeah, bacon sourdough bread, barefoot.
Right.
Why is she wearing shoes?
Yeah, exactly. And then the other side of the spectrum, oh, you can't control a woman like that. What kind of traditional hell are you, placing your wife in? I feel sorry for her. She should divorce you immediately and ruin your life. And so, you're never going to win with saying something like that, even though it's engaging. So you either accept the fact that what you said was strictly engagement for engagement's sake and move on to something else, or you defend it and look like a dumbass. So this is how the internet works, people.
And it's so much fun when you do it. Those are my favorite. I love retweeting when you do it, or if I do it, or Nick does it. You guys are my two favorites. Where you say something that's very clearly a satirical take, but everybody takes it as legitimate and just starts fighting about it in the chat.
Oh, yeah. So
it's sport for me, man. Sport.
So you look at the engagement on a shit post, and you're like, oh my god. The tweet that got me the most engagement so far this year is me juxtaposing two pictures of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez merely intimating that she's in a position to give some oral pleasuring to people. No words, nothing. So it had one picture with her pulling her hair back into a ponytail, and another one where she's got her mouth open and she's showing that she's swallowed something and her tongue's out. So where it's how it started, where it ended. Ha ha ha. Yeah, that is my most engaged tweet for 2022 so far.
That's awesome.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the thing is it has no substance. It doesn't say anything about what I generally discuss online. Nothing. It's a shit post, with a hearty har, endpoint to it, and that's Twitter right there.
I mean, well, it ties into their emotions, right? Because I don't know, like the fact you didn't say anything is probably why it did so well. Because everybody has their shit, their stupid bullshit in their head, and then you post that image. And they get to fill it with all their bullshit. And then it's like, this guy gets me better than anybody. It's literally a pickup technique, dude. I remember this. A girl ran game on me. Fucking brilliant. And I've been using it ever since. Her name was Nicole. She wasn't very smart. But I came home, went a date with her in Vancouver, and I came home, talked to my buddy Bria. I'm like, dude, this girl is brilliant. It's like, what happened? We were talking about this and talking this and talking this, and she's laughing at me because she's battle hardened when it comes to the sexual marketplace. And then I remember on the second date, I brought her to a diplomatic function on the ship, and she's like, at the time I was on HMCS Calgary, and she's like, well, if your ship is called Calgary, how does it you guys can park the thing in Calgary, Alberta? For the universe, or for the people here in Europe, and that it's a landlocked province. And my buddy just looked at me with like, what the fuck did you bring here? And he's like, yeah, the portage is the tricky part, lady. And I realized she wasn't smart. She just asked me questions and let me run my mouth, and in my stupid guy brain filled up everything that I thought was smart, that she was saying it, even though I was saying it. And I was like, that's goddamn brilliant. I've been using that. I use that in the Minecraft chat. There was this dude shit posting all the time. And so I just started talking to him, letting him tell me about how smart he was at this kind of thing. And he stopped shit posting. And now he's like a member of the chat. And no, it's not Tom Bombadil. And you basically did that on a tweet. Obviously, you know this. The fact that I learned it means I'm slow, but whatever.
Well,
and I just realized how many guys fall for this shit. Not just like here or on Twitter, but like in real life. When you're making career moves, when you want to start a business, when you want to run for politics. How many people are basically just letting you fill the gaps of their bullshit with your own emotional bullshit?
This is one thing I think the a lot of the proponents and people who speak about the red pill get wrong. Solipsism isn't a female domain exclusively. Men are solipsistic as well. And if you allow men to frame things in their worldview and continuously talk about themselves, then you will also win them over in the same way as you would a woman, because they have a worldview that places them as the center protagonist, just like every woman does.
Mm-hmm.
Women are more direct about it because they like to say things in very first person terms. Guys, if they're speaking about a subject that they're a little iffy on, they'll speak about it in third person terms. And if they're insane, they'll speak about it in second person terms. Like a professional wrestler. But that's completely different. Because Jess Rockwell doesn't put up with any of this shit.
Oh yeah,
exactly. But yeah, so women will say, I this, this is my worldview. I believe this is my truth. I feel such and such and such, and it's easier to pick up on it. But guys will do it the same way. The
only reason we don't talk about it is the same reason, like, because this has come up before, where girls want to run them up the flagpole. I don't know how to do the I was beaten down speech, but they ran me up the flagpole by saying, well, guys do this shit too. The only reason, like, red pill guys like you or me or anybody don't talk about it is because we're not fucking dudes. I don't need to hear about the failures of men in the sexual marketplace. I need to hear about the failure of man in the sexual marketplace. Sure. Outside of that, it's just irrelevant. And anybody engaging in that is basically buying into that equality shit again.
Well, right. My target isn't both sexes.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, it's good to be self-aware enough to say, like, look, man, we understand that female solipsism can be used in a way to, get yourself in good with girls if you empathize with them in certain ways. But, don't get it twisted. You can also make business deals and make money by playing on the same, superficial and, personalized thinking of guys who are stuck in a solipsistic loop. So it is what it is.
It's a tool.
Great.
It's like right. Sugar. My diabetes reference. It can survive you for the hunt, or you can get diabetes and die a fat fuck. It's up to you.
Yep.
Speaking of fat fuck, all the war talk got Sam Whiskey in the mood for chicken Kiev and proletariat vodka.
There you go.
Of all the stupid things I've seen, is that guy who bought like all that Russian vodka to dump it out to show Russia who's boss. I'm like, first off, you already bought it. Secondly, are those even Russian companies that make that? I'm pretty sure they're American distilleries, aren't they?
It all depends. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Some of the American vodka companies are Russian vodka that they buy in bulk and then they rebottle, so you never can tell. So it doesn't really even matter.
And that was my third part is who the fuck drinks Russian vodka? The Polish vodka is so much better. Like they don't have that oily shit that gives you headaches on it.
French vodka is actually pretty good too. Some of it.
I'd imagine. The problem is the French vodka knows it's good, so they charge you for it. That's why I like
great.
the
Great Grey Goose and Shirak are both very good vodkas, though.
Yeah. Oh, they are. But Vabarova is just as good, and it's not going to be $60 a bottle. But it's not frosted glass; it's just a bottle.
Yeah, I mean, I like Stoli and some of the other,
Smirnoff.
Well, in
Do
a
you hate
pinch,
your life? Here's Smirnoff.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I mean, there are worse though.
That is true. Oh yeah, the stuff that they use as brake fluid or something like that on the tank.
Bullshit. If it comes in a plastic bottle with a handle, it's probably going to be pretty rough.
You're taking me back to the Navy days now. They used to do that in the Navy Exchange in San Diego. Every time we'd go there, you'd buy like 40 ounces of all the double duty liquors. They came in plastic containers because they knew on ship they wouldn't break then. And we'd have like they call it a scran locker. It's just a spare locker that's in the room that nobody's using. We'd turn ours into like a mini bar. Totally illegal. But we wanted nothing to do with like the main mess because the guys in there was like 3 girls on board for this deployment. And there was like 200 thirsty married dudes who don't fuck on board. We're like, nope, not going there. They ended up getting in trouble because the one, first off, her nickname was the Sea Hag, which is weird because that was the one they were most thirsty over. Guys got into fist fights over her. There was this other steward. I can't remember her name, but she eventually transitioned into a man. So we always kind of laughed at all the dudes. She slept with so many guys, they basically kicked her off the deployment. It's like, you're causing too much unrest here with that pussy. You gotta go. And I just want to, I would wish I was still in because I'd see these guys now. It's like, hey, remember when you fucked that dude?
She really did have the libido of a gay man, though, which kind of makes sense in the end.
Oh, yeah. Fuck, all that stuff makes me laugh. It had nothing to do with nothing, though. I just had to laugh at it. Emotions and dudes. Yeah, emotions. And that's one of my favorite lines that I use, and I don't think I should give it enough credit, is a lot of the stuff that we do is just female strategies adopted to male sensibilities. Now, I don't know. What's your take on dread? When I talk about dread, I just call it's basically a branch swing, but with an olive branch. Jack 10 used to call it the process of teaching yourself not to be taken for granted. Like, what's your thought on it? Or do you take the professor's route where it's like a covert contract to win your wife back?
No. Yeah, I mean, that question was like halfway out of your mouth, and I'm like, no. Well, blue pill professors, no. No, my thoughts on dread are that the most effective dread is obviously passive. It's not active. Active is just being a bitch to tell your wife, well, I'll show you. And
teach her a lesson. Hold her accountable.
Yeah, that's right. I'm holding her accountable by threatening to sleep with other women. I whether it's even implicitly or explicitly, your dread levels are, since the original book has them so wonky and out of order, it doesn't make sense anyway. So it's like, okay, so I'm going to go to dread level 4, and then I need to go to 11, and then 12, and whatever, man. It's all fucked up. It's not right.
Dude, the 12 was pure fantasy.
Oh yeah.
Like, what was it? If you guys don't know, it was, what was it? So 1, 2, 3, and 4 was like separate you from your wife's ass, boundaries, get a gym routine, start handling shit and comfort tests, dress better, good hygiene. That's like 1 to 5.
Right.
And then 6 was learn game. 7 was practice game on the wife. 8 was practice game on people not the wife. 9 was literally tell her to like negotiate attraction. Fuck me or fuck you.
Yep.
And then 10 was go and get your needs met elsewhere.
Yep.
11 was, 10 was warn your girl you're going to get your needs met elsewhere. 11 was go and get your needs met elsewhere. And then 12 is start doing an end zone dance in front of your wife about how you get your needs met elsewhere. And I'm like, whatever. Cheat on your wife. Don't cheat on your wife. Leave her. It's none of my, I don't really give a shit. But it's like, hey, person that can divorce me and take my money, here's a reason that'll piss you right off and give you a ton of ammunition to divorce me for. Good luck.
Yeah.
It's like, don't, on a tactical level alone. Altmate Cad had it right. Keep your fucking mouth shut. If she asks you, you fucking lie.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the thing about dread is you should, for one thing, you should be running game on your wife from the very beginning. It should have never have stopped where you have to get to, step 6 before you start doing it again.
I could feel that. I felt that emotion behind the step, as you said, 6 there. That soft artism disdain.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to write about something that you have, a really strong feeling about, and you want it to be something that you're incredibly known for, I would have worked on the order of things and how they logically come to pass before I would, try to put them in a book and have people consume it. But, beyond that, um, dread is something that should always be present. I mean, it's you demonstrating abundance through your daily actions. It's not something that you whip out all of a sudden and you need to implement like it's you know in case of emergency, break glass for plans of dread. you know
I agree. That's the part I
and
love about it. It's like a bait and switch that way, where you're like selling a guy on teaching your bitch wife a lesson, and then you realize at the end of it, you're like, oh, I'm just being a man.
yeah,
Fair enough.
yeah, and that's the thing is that being a bitch about it may bring you to the point of where you need a plan. And I get that, because
Yeah.
some guys don't understand until they've either been burned or they feel as though things are starting to go south and they're feeling angry about it.
Well, it's like you said, change needs pain, right? It's the only
Yeah,
way.
it does. It really does. I mean, but the pain can come from just about anywhere. It doesn't necessarily need to come from, oh shit, I'm about to, you know, lose my wife to the sexual marketplace, and now I need to, demonstrate my masculinity in overt ways so that she'll get the hint. Um, Look, man, if she's already out there on the prowl, or it appears as though she's checked out, chances are all that shit that you're doing right now is just the dancing monkey routine for somebody else to see and show that you tried. And then it's also your epitaph too.
Yeah.
Here lies such and such asshole. He tried. Um,
He just
and
wanted to be understood.
that's right. That's right. You know, I just
Well, that's
wanted
the
to.
that's the 2 year mark though, isn't it? Where a lot of guys they go through it after 2 years. You've seen them. They're like, yeah, I've been married red pill for 2 years. It's great, except for, and then you find out it's just been a giant covert contract. Just like, hey, if I do these tips and tricks, then she'll fuck me the way I've
Yeah,
always
right,
wanted her
right,
to.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, what are all these condoms doing in the house, and why? And what is a shit test? And it's like you've been pantomiming, all this stuff for a long time, and you've got the jargon down, and you can write a paragraph or an attaboy, supporting somebody else who's actually putting in the work. But what
Yeah.
have you actually done for yourself at this point, other than become, a mark for the guys who are putting in the work here in the actual space, and that's problematic because then you just have guys who say, well, it doesn't work for me. I've been in the space forever, and nothing's changed. Well, yeah, you haven't changed. You haven't done shit.
Yeah.
You still
But
weigh the
that's the problem.
same.
You get those same goofballs that are doing the same thing on their end. They just say, "Well, you're not doing it well enough," and that brings us right back to the old tradcon fantasy, right? If you're the good husband, the wife will love you forever, but she's not. Well, then you did something wrong. It's definitely your fault. You're not good enough of a man. You got to double down and be more Pat Stedman.
Nah, some of these bitches are just vile. I mean, it is what it is. There are some really bad people out there, and some of them happen to be female.
Yeah.
You can't account for the behaviors or the feelings of other people. That should be the first thing that you learn from the sidebar. Is that you ain't shit, and that's okay. And then secondly, you need to know what you want, and thirdly, that you're not responsible for the feelings of others, and that saying no to them is completely reasonable.
Yeah.
That's literally the first 5 books on the sidebar. I just told you what they all say, so you're welcome. If you don't want to read them yourself.
Nobody wants to read them. You don't know how annoyed I am that how long people are calling themselves red pilled, and it's like, what the fuck is Glover? Like, oh.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I
What's
get it, because like it's not cool, it's not snazzy, it's not about conquering the world, it's not about working out. It's about, hey, you've been a bitch for most of your life. Yeah, your parents fucked you up, but you got to fix it.
Yep.
Here's some basic shit, and some of the stuff sounds absolutely gay. You got to think about your feelings. And he was totally wrong with the bring your wife on it. She'll share your journey on you. And even he admits that later, but he hasn't updated the book, but whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah, sometimes if you've been a piece of shit for a while, occasionally you're going to have to, be a little bit more of a piece of shit for a while until you fix it again.
right. And you have to accept the fact that it's going to be a process, and that you
Mm-hmm.
can't just wake up and say, "Well, I've had a revelation. Why can't anybody else around me see it?" Well,
Yeah.
because they're not in your mind. You get pissed off whenever a woman says things, and you say, "Well, woman, I can't read your mind," and then you're here sitting around saying, "Well, woman, why can't you read my mind? Can't you see all the progress I'm making, you bitch?" you know.
Yeah. And
So
then, sure enough, somebody comes up with like a clever term. Hey, here's the 1,000-foot tow rope. Here's a parable, so you guys can understand what the fuck is going on in a way that's bite-sized,
yeah,
digestible to a grade 8 reading level. And they're like, oh, okay.
well, that and all the ex-military who are in red pill, talking about first mates and captains and burn your ship on the shore and all these types of
Hey,
things.
I
And
thought we were done shitting on Zach.
well, all right, well, maybe just a little more. That
Yeah.
needed to be said, but the thing is that all of us in the non the normie non-military community who don't have that experience look at all of that stuff and get turned off by it a lot of times. They're like, none of this shit applies to me. I don't have any context to what it is to follow orders in this type of environment, and how if something's happening, I need a co-captain to take over in the event of. I mean, I understand the use of simile and metaphor and trying to make
But you
things
think it's a bit too
palatable.
far
And
down that rabbit hole?
yes, I think at a certain point you just need to say, look, we're not going to sugarcoat shit and make up things for story's sake. You need to actually get into the crux of what the problem is, and start digging in the dirt and pulling this shit out. And a lot of guys don't want to do that. They would just rather be put themselves at the center of some weird, Ovid type of story, Ovidian, saga, and talk about, not fucking their wives as though it's some kind of,
Badge of
battle.
honor.
Yeah, badge of honor, or battle with, the harpies and, sirens of the world. And when it's not, it's just, look, you're unattractive. That's the number
Yeah.
one reason why you're not getting laid.
And
So
she doesn't deserve that. Look at her. She's fat. She's a lot of things. You're
she's a
still
lot of
unattractive.
things, right? But you're still unattractive. That's right.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
even if you're gonna ditch her or you're gonna keep her, you still need to be fuckable. If for no
right?
other reason that I don't want to hear your dog shit takes on the Ukraine.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why dread isn't isn't target specific, and I don't think it ever should be. That's the
No.
thing. You should be dreading the world in a way that you are becoming more attractive to multiple people, as opposed to trying to target your attractiveness on one person. And I understand that people would say, well, the world isn't going to take half of my things. Well, yeah, that's true, and I understand that you may want to target at this one person, but if you've made enough money and if you're attractive enough, you'll recover. It will
Yeah.
be okay.
It's
You
money,
know,
you'll make more. Well, dude, that's actually
you'll
Keone
save
Galt
more.
back
You'll
in
at the
'08.
very
Same
you'll
thing.
save more.
Oh, yeah,
At
you'll
the
save
very
more. Yeah.
least.
He talked about it, the emasculation paradox, where that Dalrock talks about threat point, where that whole fear of losing half your shit makes guys change how they act in relationships to be more submissive, so that in hopes that their wife won't take everything. But then the problem is that very act of being less of an attractive man is what makes it more likely to happen, and that's the paradox. And they're like, yeah, it seems counterintuitive, but the best way to avoid this shit is just act the way you're scared of acting.
Well,
Don't
not
let the
only
threat
that, I
point affect
mean,
you.
what made you attractive to the other person in the first place was your, everything that you had going on when you first got together. It was
Yeah,
your,
all the
I
asshole stuff, all the
right.
abundance.
I don't give a fuck attitude. If you want to come with me, come with me. If you don't. All those things were attractive. Now that you're in domestic situation where you're seeing each other all the time, you're on top of one another, then that dynamic is changing because you feel as though you need to placate the other person in order to keep them happy. Well,
Yeah.
it
And it's not this is a conscious choice by so many guys. I remember there was a couple pickup artists, like big ones. I'm not gonna say who, but that I used to consult back in the first year when I was doing this, and they were literally like, she loved it that I was a fuck boy, and then we got together, and then we got married. But then I'm like, I got to put that stuff away. I got to be a good man and treat her nice. And they were basically talking to me after 5 years, saying, our kid's 5 years old, and she wants a divorce. What the hell did I do wrong? And it's just amazing that like this stuff attracted her. You're like, yeah, you know what attracted her? Like, yeah. And then you stop doing it, yeah. And then she's no longer attracted, yeah. Like, but I have to keep drawing the line, and I'm like, do you understand what I'm trying to say? It's like I don't get it. Like,
connect the dot, you son of a bitch.
do you want me to fuck her for you too? I will.
Yeah,
I have to. But you're gonna have to
Jeez,
pay
oh,
me
man.
more.
Right. How badly do I need to make you feel before you understand that this is your fault by making so many concessions?
Oh, dude, and you
Right?
have to. That was the whole. Oh shit, I can't. You had to call somebody. But remember the bundles of sticks phase where everybody
Oh
was
yeah.
like, "Please call me one."
Oh Jesus. Yeah.
And I remember at first it made like I know that was me with my bravado coming in like drill sergeant style, right? Everybody's like, "Yeah, yell at me. There's something wrong with me." They separate tone from content. They start to listen. They apply things. You apply things. It all works out well. Seems great. But then a lot of guys were like getting off on it. It's like, yeah, here's my fucked up life. Why don't you just drop an F bomb on me? And then they kind of realize, it's like, dude, are you guys Catholic? Because this sounds a lot like a confession thing.
Well, it's not only that. It's like, are you Catholic and are you, a flagellite or an ascetic who, likes to hit themselves with a cat of nine tails when nobody's looking? I mean, there's being, contrite about something and wanting to, kind of purge your sin. Yeah, but at the same time, you shouldn't revel in your misery. I mean, that's that's a completely different thing. You're on the wrong sub if you're trying
Literally
to.
sub.
Exactly. That's why I said it that way.
Yeah.
But
All right, here. Well, do you want to handle this one too after you're done your point? Because I don't know how to answer this.
they don't. They
Oh,
don't. Um, they use their femininity just as often as they can in order to gain an advantage over both sides, particularly if they have a male client and if there's a male on the other side, two males on the other side of the table. Um,
interesting.
well, yeah, I mean, are you more likely to negotiate a settlement with a hot 28-year-old, blonde with her hair pulled back and her makeup completely done in a dress instead of a suit, or are you going to do the same thing with a 50-year-old guy, who's been divorced twice, doesn't take care of himself anymore, and you can kind of see some weakness in him because he's been, beaten down by life.
God, that's
That
funny because like in nowhere in there did you describe who's offering you the best terms. It was
because
literally
that
pick your
because it doesn't
authority.
matter generally in negotiation. What people don't understand is that settlements are inherently a lose-lose proposition for either side. There is never a win-win, and there's never a complete loss either. So what you have to convince two people that hate each other to do is to say that it's more of a pain in the ass to spend money on this case at a certain point than it is to give these people something that you feel they don't deserve. So there comes a point where the cost benefit analysis kicks in for everybody, and they just say, yeah, I fucking hate you and you hate me, but we both know that I would rather give you 40% of what you are asking to end this litigation, so I don't give the other 60% of the guy sitting next to me, because that's
Burn
what
it
it
to the
ends up
ground and
happening.
split the ashes.
Pretty much. I mean, it's a very Solomon type of thing. It's like, oh, so you you want custody of the children, you can't decide on it. Well, I'll cut the kids in half, and and you both get half. And
I don't know
that's
if that
kind
was
of
the same lesson the parable was trying to teach, though.
I get that, but at the same time, we're dealing with people who are also hopped up high on emotions. I mean, these are many cases wealthy people or corporations who have an axe to grind because they feel as though they're both in the right.
Hmm.
Um, but as far as um, female lawyers, they're very emotional in court, so you can throw them off in that way. They're emotional and depositions, so you can throw them off in that way. But most of the things that I found with female lawyers, though, is if you allow a lot of cases to go straight to paper,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have a hard time. For one thing, they're normally
What does straight
very
to paper mean?
straight to paper means that most cases don't involve hearings unless you're going to trial or you have a lot of motion practice. So
Okay.
like a lot of stuff that happens in the court until you actually argue it is all on paper. So like uh, evidentiary issues like discovery, answer these interrogatories, questions about the situation, produce these documents. This is a motion to limit what's happening in the case. This is a motion to possibly dismiss the case. If you allow a case to go on those terms for a long period of time, in my experience, you're going to be at a disadvantage with a female lawyer um, because of the way that she organizes and also the way that she writes persuasively, because that's kind of her ability to use her emotions and temper it in such a way through editing that it comes through as more persuasive and less
Less woman.
less woman and begging and pleading for shit. Yeah.
Huh. I don't know. This reminds me so much of those times where guys are like, they'll get into a fight with their girl and they'll walk away, and then they get this giant text calling him a narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy's like, I responded to it, and now I'm an asshole. Because, yeah, it's like, dude, don't answer those things by text. It's literally the same thing. The only answer you give is a K or just red. That's it. In fact, better yet, don't give either.
Yeah, and in legal circles, what you do is you parse out the legal issues, and you simply state your own facts as counterfactual to what they've placed in the document. So, they tell this long-winded story about what the facts of the case are and what the circumstances were and how your client's a piece of shit and how you've harmed this other person and blah blah blah. And then you get into the argument section where you're no longer dealing with the narrative. You have to show where this other person harmed you in a legal sense. So you have to line up the law with the facts that you've already laid out. And they can do that okay. But if you learn to start kind of backwards in that type of document, you go from the conclusion backwards up through the facts. You don't get annoyed or rattled by the initial, screed that's put into the document at the very beginning, and you can simply work through the legal portions of it and negate the argument with your own facts. And then at the very end say, well, I don't even need to read this because it doesn't apply to my client. I'm going to write my own statement of facts dealing directly with my client, so I can be entirely dismissive of what she wrote, other than what's important to the determination in the case. So
he's talking about law, boys, but he's not just talking about law.
Correct.
I'll tell you right now.
You're right. And a lot of this has to do with, well, where do you start? Okay, well.
What do you want?
Yes.
Oh, no, that's supposed to be your line. The guys were saying at the beginning. I bet you Chesty says it.
Yeah, well, it's Rob. It's Rob's big line. I don't need to get into it too much. Everybody knows my position on this is that you can't reach an endpoint unless you figure out what it is that you want in the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the best way to avoid things is to
not get married in the first place, MGTOW. I wanted to bring this up not because I'm like, me, I refuse to let black pill or MGTOW, like, if you're not in the fucking marketplace, don't talk about fucking. I don't agree with this, and I'm curious about your thoughts, mostly because it's kind of like, well, you're fat? Well, I'm just going to avoid eating. It's like, how many other base instincts are you going to avoid? And if you don't want to get married, I mean, I'm not married. I'm common law married. It's basically cohabitation, right? And I'm perfectly happy with it. My girl's happy, and we do fine. But the issue isn't marriage as a legal instrument. I think the issue is guys and how they act. And you can say I'm going to swear off women and be a eunuch, but frankly, I just don't believe anybody who says that at all.
Well, not only that, but I think the the funny thing that I can say to this, and people might get mad, and I don't really care, is that
You're in the right place for that.
well, yeah, and the thing is I take the position of wine more, please. On this is that you're not capable of getting married because you
Ooh.
suck. That's that's
That's
different.
a wine more please reference if I ever heard it.
Yes, that's different than the institution itself is less than advantageous for men. And from a legal perspective, I would say, yes, that's absolutely true. If you are the primary breadwinner in your house and you bring the most to the table financially, and
Yeah, you're signaling to the court.
if you break up, you will get fucked. But the same thing holds true if a woman comes to the table with the most of the money. I mean, Adele is a perfect example of that. If you marry a fucking dork loser, and he wants a portion of the ownership of your farm in the middle of nowhere, and he lives there. Oh, there we go. See, he knows. He knows. That's right. It's not my fault that you suck. Absolutely. And you go through all of this and at the end say, well, why is this so easy for me and it's so hard for other people? And you at a certain point you come to the conclusion then it's a you problem and it's not a me problem when it comes to being able to run a marriage.
Yeah.
And you can't say that the institution is necessarily bad when some people are decent at it, and then at the same time say, well, nobody should do it because the environment of getting married is less than advantageous.
Exactly. I was going to say you don't have to bring up first Tommy Bombadil with your second account, $5 super chat. Red pill dream journaling and interpretation course when. Unfortunately, Peterson already took my what's his stupid writing course thing he had? God damn it. Whatever. It's Jordan Peterson joke insert here. I was gonna say you don't have to think as far as Adele though. Do you remember Darla? Darla 10?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, she was a great example. Her and Claire, I think, would be a great. If you guys don't know who these people are, these are like old Redditors. You probably know Kate, the Deads and Sushi chick from Twitter, but there was like more than just one girl that was kind of around the space. Those two were a great example on if you want to red pill a woman, treat her like a man. Because yeah, Darla was like New York fashion, something like that, $250,000 a year salary. Got married. As soon as she got married, the husband turned into a house husband, and shit went south. They got divorced. He ended up getting alimony payments and custody and all that shit. And she got pissed off at it. Started reading the red pill and saw a dating coach. Basically told her, "Stop acting like a man, and you'll get yourself a man." She ended up with like a tall Chad firefighter. Now they're happy. Claire was same thing, dating a fancy businessman guy, cheating on her a bunch. Went bookworming in, read everything on the red pill, and then a year later she's hooked up with I don't know some nice guy, and I think they're married, have kids by now too, right? But it's back to your marriage thought. It's like yeah, it's I agree, marriage sucks for men, but I do it's more so that marriage sucks for the certain types of choices certain type of men make. You're right. The single nuclear family gets it worse in marriage than anybody for guys because they make literally every choice and they don't think about what that signals to a court case. It's like you said, I'll be the breadwinner. Well, you just told the court that you want to take care of this woman for the rest of your life. And then the court's like, all right, we're going to hold you to that standard. And you're like, oh, this isn't fair.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even promise your kids that you're going to pay for their college in that
Yeah.
circumstance because I mean that'll be brought up in court immediately as well. Well,
Yeah.
you remember that conversation you had with your dad, when you were 16, that he was going to take care of your college, when the time came, and you're in, divorce court when the kid's, 17, just about to go to college, and mom is using this to pull more money out of the situation. Well, I mean, you did make that promise to your kid. Just because you hate her mom now doesn't mean that she doesn't get to go to college.
And I get it. The court's not going to track to make sure that's where the money goes. But I mean, they've already done their part. Our part was just to give her the money. It's your guys' problem now to sort out that she actually doesn't waste it on coke and fucking gigolos.
Right.
It's the court. It's not your dad.
Right. And they've got, 90 other cases right behind you that need to be sorted out this month.
Yeah.
So, don't think you're fucking special.
But I mean, you're right though. They're just you just have to change the decisions you make, or better yet, you have to be deliberate in your choices to make to get those outcomes you want. You're right. A two parent or a person working household, far superior. In fact, you want the girl to earn money. And now here's a good example. Let me know if I'm on point on this or not. But do you know those arguments that couples always have after the kid, where mom is like, I want to go back to work, but I'll just be earning enough to pay for the daycare. So why don't I save us some money and stay home with the kid? You know this one, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Yeah. And a lot of
But
guys are
that,
like,
but
yeah,
that,
that makes sense. She's
but
just thinking about the family.
that's not the argument, though.
No. I mean, for me, the argument is, well, that's great. So now for the next, 5 years, you're out of the workplace, your lifetime earnings go down. And now I just told the court that I'm willing to take care of you. And if you're going to leave me, everybody I've talked to who's a child of divorce was around 5 years old. And this is literally the time that you're making the worst decision of your life from a legal perspective.
That even there, I don't even think that gets to the full crux of the issue.
Ooh.
The
Now you
main
got me
issue,
peaked.
well, the main issue here isn't we're talking about emotions. It isn't a pragmatic one, and it's not about money in the end either. It's about whether or not she can trust you to uh, be basically her father on top of being her kid's father. And
Oh.
if you look at it from that perspective, then she will come to hate her dad, you, as quickly as she no longer gets ponies, brunchies, and you know appies during the afternoons. So it has more to do with the power structure and an increase in soft power on her end, because now she can amorphously talk about all of the contributions that she makes to the household without putting any type of metric on it. You know,
Oh,
you don't
yeah.
understand my emotional labor. You don't understand what it's like to be with this kid 12 hours a day. You don't
Maybe if
know
you did some
how
dishes,
you
I'd be
don't you did
comfortable.
you don't know how hard it is. Um, those are a lot easier to complain about and non-quantify than say, well, I only make two-thirds of what you make. Could you at least help a little bit with him because of the time that I'm spending? That seems like a reasonable thing to do because you're trying to balance out the equities of things within the house. But if
Well, you're
there's
just trying to solve a problem, not even so
right,
much about the equity.
well, however you want to look at it is that a problem can be solved using that type of linear thinking. But if you're under the amorphous guidance of you promised to take care of me, you need to uh, fulfill your duties as a man and
Mm-hmm.
a husband and a father. I sacrificed for you. You never want to hear that from anybody ever at any time in a relationship because
Mm-hmm.
it's a harbinger of sorrow. Um, so, you come to the point where if you take away somebody's individuality and also a little bit of their autonomy, there's great responsibility in becoming, that person's everything. And if you're really not wanting to be that, or if you're looking at it as something temporary and it becomes something permanent, you're asking the wrong questions about whether or not mom should go back to work. It doesn't.
No.
That's not what that question's about.
And you can't guarantee that things will or won't be permanent. Like I know military bunch of guys. One of the Matts that I've talked about in my stories, his wife same way, going to school, wanted to be a teacher. As soon as they got married, she couldn't find work. Then she wanted to get pregnant, so there's no point looking for a job. Then she had the kid. Then she had to stay home. And now he's basically sitting in a home that he can't afford, in a job that he can't leave, with a quality of life that he finds absolutely miserable, with a kid that he loves to death, and a wife who's like bitches at him because he's not doing more. And I see why more pleased near talking about, setting the standards, setting expectations. From your perspective, or a guy like me or Chesty, that makes perfect sense. But for these poor bastards, they can't even look at that far ahead because they're just treading water. And all because they made decisions that sounded good from an emotionally persuasive angle, but practically make no sense.
Yep.
I do like how you put that, though. But yeah, the only reason, and then I know it seemed like a semantic issue when you say like equity in the home versus solving a problem. The only reason I say that because there's been a bunch of problems we have like in our home, for example, where well it sucks, suck it up is the only answer.
Yeah, but I mean, you chose to get 3 dogs, so I
Yeah.
mean that
Actually, I
is.
was referring to renovations, but yeah,
But you understand my point though, is that
exactly.
all wounds are self inflicted.
Yeah.
All wounds are self inflicted.
Yeah, we got $1,000 surcharge because we got to get dog sitters every time I want to go on vacation, so we take less vacations. Welcome. Well, that's the choice we made. And then yeah, if I get complaints about that, you just like yeah, that's the choice we made. Go love your dogs. We'll take them to the park. The renos was another example. I turns out I suck at drywalling, and so I'm like I'm not gonna do drywalling. But the girl likes doing it. She's good at it. She's like, well, let's renovate the kitchen. I'm like, fine. Just realize I'm not going to help you. If you want to do it, it's your project. I'll help you pay for it, whatever. So we buy the things, and she does it, and then she bitches that I'm not helping, and I'm like, well, do you want me to help? Because every time I help, you'll yell at me and then just take over because you're a control freak and you do a better job. Again, it's just one of those things. You want a new kitchen? That's great. Good luck. I'm going to go talk on this podcast about masculinity while you run the jackhammer in the den. But I mean, it sounds horrific or lazy or whatever you want to put to it, but it works, right? And that's
What's
really
this
all I care
letter?
about.
What's this letter from the condo association? Ashay, will you deal with this too?
Yeah. Well, we're good at the paperwork. The military has taught me to be good at paperwork and her to be good at paperwork. So, but yeah, most of these. But then you realize that all of these issues, and this is just an example, everybody's relationship issues are essentially a version of that. There is a choice that wants to be made, an emotion behind it, a consequence of that choice, and then you just pick out of all those little pieces which one gets the outcome you can live with. And then when things happen, you're either aware that they were going to happen and then you have no right to complain, or you weren't aware they were going to happen. You've now just learned something and you got a new problem to start out and just repeat the cycle again until eventually you're at a point where I hate to say it, but it's almost like you can't negotiate desire, but you can negotiate a relationship, you know?
Well, to a certain extent, and plus you also learn each other's styles. I mean,
Yeah.
that is one of the benefits of longevity is that there's certain repeat patterns of behavior where you can just kind of look at something as it's in real time and go, yeah, this is not going well. I got to figure out a way to kind of derail this or move it into a different direction. Um, but the major portion of it is that yeah, I mean, all wounds are self inflicted. All choices are important, even the most innocuous ones. But most of the time you're making a lot of these things in the matter of minutes and hours, not in the time that it would take to draw a Venn diagram as to benefits and drawbacks of doing these things. Just always keep in the back of your mind that you may be placating somebody's immediate desire for something, very short term thinking, but it's going to at some point have some long term consequences. I mean,
Oh yeah.
pets and kids are the best example. I mean, before you could just, grab her and throw her on a table and fuck in the middle of the afternoon. But, if you've got 2 teenagers in the house, that option is kind of, foreign to you at this point.
Yeah. Either that or some therapy afterwards, either or.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, how much money do I need to set aside so, my kids will forgive me at some point? Um, but, and it's the same thing with the pets, like you were talking about. Well, how do I mitigate the fact that I used to just get up and go and travel all the time before I got these little creatures that I need to take care of, and it's like, well, you got to throw money at the problem, or you make the decision to stay home more and take care of them as opposed to doing what it is that you would normally do at the spur of a moment. I mean,
Yeah.
all
And you
the
got to give
choice.
up that idea too of like having a conversation. Like if
Yeah,
they're coming at you emotionally like this, you can't logically talk them through it and have them see your
right.
side of things. You either
Well,
have to
like
make a decision and live with it, or just
yes.
go along and accept it.
But I think too, you also need to accept the fact that sex is important. Like at the very beginning of your relationship, not just the life of your relationship. And I don't think people take that in consideration either, because they add so many extraneous things to their lives that end up being, cock blockers to intimacy. And
Those
that's,
goddamn pillows, man. It's always the pillows.
well, it's not even, yeah, the pillows, yeah. The two kids and all the animals and the in-laws and the outside responsibilities of having to go to some meeting with a bunch of assholes that you don't even like because we're community or oriented now that we have money and all that bullshit.
Oh
It's
yeah,
it's it
it's a
all
buffer.
becomes it's all performance art that gets in the way of the actual important things of your relationship, and that's connecting with the person that you still want to bump uglies with. And that's the thing that I feel the sphere gets wrong about everything. And when talking about
Understatement of the year.
about things in the abstract so much is that they don't understand that your relationship is your relationship, and that you need to take care of it as an individual bonsai tree as opposed to all trees. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't get, is that they're into the hypotheticals to such an extent, and they're into crunching the data to a certain point that they can't look
Can't even
at
see it.
whatever. Yeah, well, they can't see it at all, and then they also can't see that whatever it is that they're doing might be you know that precious outlier to any of that stuff in certain respects, and very similar to the data in other respects. Um, you know,
Which I love when I see those outliers. My community had that. There was one guy, he pulled like every mistake you could think of when it came to like getting girls and that kind of thing. But it turns out he was just so hot, so Chad, that he could do the most like beta Billy shit ever and still pull through at the end. And I'm like, man. But it turns out his problem was the opposite one. Like he can get him into bed. It's after that he has the issues. Which
well,
is
that's
funny because the exact same way you described guys and failing marriages, their ultra emotionality, their stupid internal abstract narratives, was kind of the same problem he was having. I just find it so wonderful that it doesn't matter which side you come from, whether you can be like the super Chad or the super beta bucks, whatever. You still have the same problems, and it still puts you in the same place at the end, where you're sitting there with your dick in your hand in the bathroom, so you don't wake her up. You got to be quiet, wondering what the fuck happened here, while you're typing on your phone. Why won't my wife fuck me?
yeah.
And then you
I
find a
mean,
"Wine More Please" post about why you suck.
well, I think a lot of guys, and I think this is why it resonates so much with moviegoers. They're just looking for that scene at the end of Saving Private Ryan, where the soldier is at the gravesite of his officer, and he turns to his spouse and his family, and he says, was I a good man? you know was I okay? Did I do everything right? And they're looking at him like confused, and well, of course, you were good. You've always been a good man. Why do you need us to tell you that?
Yeah,
And
yeah. Good for who?
right. Well, not only that, but this is a guy 80 years old who's crying in his wife's arms because he's never figured it out that he doesn't need that outside validation from other people to say that what he did was worthwhile. And if you're always searching for an outside source of external validation, whether it be from other dudes, or your guru gives you a thumbs up or an attaboy, or likes your comment one day and goes, oh, Jordan Peterson noticed me, something like that. And you want to say something to the effect of, I just can't understand why I'm so unhappy all the time. Well, that's part of it. I mean, you're expecting this gigantic covert contract from the world that your existence meant something.
Yep.
You know?
And you followed all the rules to get there.
Yeah, you followed all the rules, and at the very end, you're still unsure of whether or not you did the right thing, because there wasn't somebody there at the very end to pat you on the back and say, "Yeah, you're done. You did what you needed to do. Good job."
Yeah, those are my least favorite field reports too. The ones where the guy will just take his entire life story and dump it on your lap, and then ask at the end, "Did I do good?" I would.
Well,
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. That's like 60% of what new guys post.
I mean, that's why everybody gets the one victim puke. That's what it was always. That's what we always called it. You get your one victim puke, get it out of your fucking system, and then start writing in terms of first person or third person that pertains to you. I don't want to see any fucking pronouns dealing with her or hers or she, or I don't give a fuck about what your wife wants, unless you're going to describe her enough to me that I find her attractive and you give me your address. I don't give a
Yeah.
shit what she does.
Put her on. Actually, I was gonna say put her on the line, but
Put
then I
her on
remember
the
we had
line,
that one chick
exactly.
that did do that, and that was a fucking gong show. Fucking was her Vampire Squidina or whatever her name was.
Yes, exactly.
Because of you guys, my husband's a dick. It's like we didn't tell him this, and then we found out. It's like, yeah, he just was really insecure because she fucked a lot as a kid and he never did, and now
Yep.
he's alpha and wants to, but she's holding him back, and they're like, holy fuck, you guys deserve each other.
That's right.
And the best
And you're
part for you guys in the audience too, I did a video on it. I think it's a mids watch one. The best part about it is to look at these guys at this on paper. It was like a perfect couple. Both of them great earners, both attractive, both happy. They got the kids, the family, and everything. But underneath is just this seething emotion of like resentment that she fucked more than me, and then her resentment of now that he's becoming fuckable, I don't like him anymore.
Yep.
It was just fucking
Or no, it's
amazing.
not even that she doesn't like him. It's that she doesn't like the way that she feels about liking
Yeah,
that
good point.
other version of him. That's what it is.
Yeah, I
It's
don't like
it's
his new outfit.
well, no, well, it's the resentment that if this guy would have just been like this from the beginning, we wouldn't even be in this situation, and I wouldn't feel resentful about it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like being resentful about not finding the natural. And now that somebody's actually gone through the work to change, I don't know if I want to see how the sausage is fucking made. So yeah, it turns me off to the fact that I had to come to this in order for me to be attracted to him.
Yeah, and they'll
And
get mad, but
well,
C-Pen was the same way with his wife too, though, right?
well, yeah, I mean, but yes, but I mean, every guy in the end is annoyed by the fact that they married a whore who fucks like a prude. That's always the issue. That's really what it boils down to is like, okay, well, I went through all of these hoops, and I jumped through all this shit, and I paid all this money, and I paid all these dues, and I became this type of person, and I did everything that everybody told me to do. I fit the mold of what a good man is, quote unquote good man is. And then I found somebody and I married her, and she cuts me off from any physical contact after after marriage, and I don't know why. And then I come to find out that she's been with a whole bunch of other dudes and had some prolific sex life before me. And I was doing all the right things to be a good man, and I turned down more sex than I probably ever even had because it was societally, you know, untoward, to want those things and take advantage of those things, even if they were thrown at you, left, right, and sideways. I can count on two hands of girls that I didn't have sex with out of guilt or lack of perfect opportunity, or it just didn't seem right, or it was
Mm-hmm.
the not the right thing to do. And it was the 90s too, and everybody was afraid of pregnancy and AIDS. But you you put all that
Simpler
together.
time.
Right. It was a simpler time, yes. And so, back then you would just look at it as like, okay, I was being a gentleman by not having sex with this girl who definitely wanted it and was throwing herself at me at the time.
Yeah.
I just didn't
Everybody's
realize.
miserable. I'm such a good person.
Right.
Oh,
Exactly.
dude,
Yeah.
you're hitting my like teenage vibes right now, and I'm not liking it.
I'm sorry. but you're hoping that there's some type of reward at the end of this rainbow, and there isn't. That's the thing. Doing all of those things way back then isn't going to create some type of karmic confluence of you getting a whole bunch of pussy and great sex from one person. That's just not how things work. So then you end up settling with somebody, and you find out all of these things about her, and your count and your opportunities, would have matched up had you taken advantage of those things, like you
Hmm.
could have, but you didn't. And then you blame her for the fact that you're less experienced than her with multiple partners because those were your choices, not her choices in many cases.
Well, that's the easier thing to do. It's not my fault. It has to be your fault. There's that men being raised as defective women. When you blame a girl for something, she's like, no, it's somehow your fault that I did this. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, and then you're a few years into this marriage, and you find out some of these things afterwards, and your only resentment is that now I have a whore that fucks like a prude.
Yeah.
She doesn't perform for me the way that I assume that she did for all of these others, because she's more experienced and should know more about these things and bring more to the sexual table.
And that's got to
And
sting too. When like, and then what's the usual response to that? Is the girl basically telling him you don't actually want that? It's like she's doing you a favor because this is special or some shit like that. It's like teabagging somebody after you've just gotten them with the headshot, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of after effects to that. If you let it bother you, but this is another one of the reasons why I always say guys need a whole phase too. I mean, they really do, and
Yeah.
that's why marrying really early, if you're going to choose to get married, is a mistake for men because they come to the table with fewer partners, less experience, and they don't know what it is that they want out of a partner or life. And
Well,
if
and
you're
that's
gonna
what ties back to the field reports where it's like dump this shit on your lap and what did I do? Did I do well? It's like the whole point of all of this, any of this, is to know what you want, or
yep.
at least know what you don't want, and then take from what's left. So when you ask that question, how did I do? You should already know how you did.
Yeah, and how you did would be subjective to every man who writes that same exact story, or at least it
Mm-hmm.
should be. Because I
Oh, it
mean,
is.
there are some, well, I mean, there are some similarities and patterns to these relationships as to what people want in the end. I think men, all they want is somebody who respects them, fucks them on the regularly with some enthusiasm and some silence. That's really all they want the majority of the time.
Yeah, it's pretty
You know,
simple.
it is,
Hardest,
but it's
simplest thing ever.
well, that's the thing, and this is also a chestyism. It's simple, but it's hard. And that's the problem is that everybody's goals at the very end seem very simplistic, but to get to that point of where it can become a reality is a completely different set of problems. And two, you're having to account for whether or not somebody wants you in that way, somebody else out there, and that's your spouse or your significant other. In many cases, they like the situation as it is.
Yeah. And I guess so. We're running out of time. I got to go host Rule Zero here in 20 minutes, but I'll answer this one at the end and then get some closing thoughts from you. How did Ryan avoid that situation? I didn't avoid it. I'm just like these guys. I was smart enough to see the direction things were going and decided to make a pivot. It's basically it. I don't think anybody who's ever been in the red pill has ever had a situation where they haven't been in a situation that everybody likes to bitch about now. It's the only difference is we were lucky enough or smart enough or whatever to type in that what fucking my problem into Google and it turned to the married red pill or the red pill or whatever before it got fucking horrible. If that answers your question. Beyond that, I don't like giving my Batman or I've already given you the Batman origin story. I don't want to do it again. Hate that shit. I don't know. What do you think, Chess? Before I let you go here, these are fun.
Well, I mean, mine was similar. I mean, I had a situation that was out of my control that spiraled into responses that I didn't think were a possibility, and that led me to the internet and essentially finding the married red pill subreddit and looking through it and discovering that I had made assumptions about how people feel about me and how I should feel about the world, that were basically covert contracts to myself. And I needed to get it through my head that there were certain things about the world that were not going to simply work out because I willed them to. And
You know?
that's a lot of things were out of my control, and that all I could do was control myself. And then by getting myself to where I thought I needed to be, I needed to accept that other people would either accept where I was going and where I would get to with my changes, or they wouldn't. And then be, um, I guess, consistent enough and accepting enough of the fact that if it didn't turn out, I would be okay in the end because what I was doing was positive for myself.
Yeah.
So and it sounds very trite, but that
It sounds
situation,
simple.
and yeah, it does, but it's not. And because again, Ryan was talking about, you have a lot of emotions about every one of those things that I just discussed. Well, why should I have to do any of these things? Why should I have to make changes? Aren't I good enough as I am? Wasn't for better or for worse a promise that we made to each other, not just me to her. And that's the thing that I think a lot of guys, particularly the ones that get married are upset about is that they don't feel as though that vows or promises made between people matter anymore. And if you're going to abide by the covert contracts of the state, that's your problem too. So you need to understand that nobody's on your side but you. And if you don't like where things are going, the only person who's going to be able to change those things are you. So
Fuck, the only
have
person
fun.
who even wants to.
Yeah, everybody else is enjoying how it is. I mean, they can either change the situation themselves and take another path and know that there's going to be some type of safety net for them, especially women, and guys can either make the changes or they won't, and then say, "Well, I was blindsided." No, dude, you weren't blindsided. Bullshit. The signs were there that things were starting to get sketchy and change. You saw her withdraw from you. You saw the kids start to spend less time with you because probably mom was, saying things about how things were going. Cut it out.
Yeah.
Stop. Being a little bitch about things and
Oh yeah,
figure
and
out
yes,
what it
she is
is
a
that you
bitch,
want.
and yes, it's her fault, and yes, she's to blame, but it's still your responsibility to to chart a path through this.
Yep, for yourself if nobody else.
Mm-hmm. Fuck the West. The West owes me $20.
Yeah,
Pays me back first, then I'll worry about saving it.
that's right. The West owes me a lot more than $20.
All right, so I got 15 minutes. I got to go do Rule Zero. We're gonna talk about guys being gullible. I think we got a full cast. Dude, I love these with you, man. I know we chat often offline, but when we do these online, you guys in the chat, you really do get a fucking gift. I know, Chesty, I know you don't like compliments, or maybe you do, but you really are fucking awesome to talk to.
Well, thank
I
you.
like you're one of the few people that when I get on a cast with, I have to come on point, and if I haven't been told no, you're wrong at least once, then it's clearly you're checked out. I think you did it 4 times on me this time, and I'm happy for every one of them.
Well, I didn't say you were wrong. I think I simply said that there was possibly another
I'm
way to
not a
look at
wife. You
it.
don't gotta coddle me. It's fine.
I'm not. Trust me. I'm not coddling you. I'm just saying that sometimes the box has many sides. Let's just look at it that way. And whether you're inside the box on side 1, 2, 3, or 4, or on the outside of it on side 1, 2, 3, or 4 is important. How you approach a problem in many cases, I think, is just as important as identifying the problem. And sometimes it's not with numbers. Sometimes it is with feelings. Sometimes people do feel like shit, or they have a misconception about what an important conversation is really about. Sometimes it's not about the money. Sometimes it is about how free I feel, how valuable I feel within a relationship, and
Mm-hmm.
that has nothing to do with money. It has to do with feeling as though you're being heard. So again, it's not about the nail in the middle of the girl's forehead. Sometimes it's just saying, I'm not going to. Um, I'm not going to fix the problem for you. You can sit and complain about it for a while, but I will still laugh at you inside because I know that I could solve this, but that's
Mm-hmm.
literally not what you want. So, yeah, it's
Whatever. All right, guys. Anyways, later. Oh wait, I got. Damn it! I keep forgetting to do this one. Single moms, a horrible position that's not my problem.